So now, I'm taking my water with me, even though I have one over there. So now I'm excited to welcome to the stage Peter Byck, the filmmaker behind Carbon Nation. I apologize, everyone. And a professor of practice at Arizona State University for a conversation about farming and environmental stewardship. Give him a round of applause, please. Yes. And I was supposed to say, and Peter reminded me, that there are a lot more seats over here in front. If you go to the left of me, there are lots of seats. And if anyone's, using their chair as a way to keep their bag off the floor, put it on your lap, okay? So more people can sit down. So, Peter, we have a few clips from a documentary, from your new documentary. Before we show the first one, can you briefly talk about the project and really what inspired it?
Sure. Hi, everybody, and thank you. Thank you for having me here, Danny. I've been wanting to be on stage with you for a long time.
So glad you're here.
So our film, our research, it started as a research project to see if adaptive multi-paddock grazing could be a benefit for farmers' pocketbooks, a benefit for farmers' land, and possibly even a climate change solution. And so we went to the southeast U.S. and found 10 farm families, 5 neighbors, 5 pairs, and we got a team of scientists, about 23 scientists from all over the U.S., to study what's happening on both farms, where the only difference was the management of the grazing. So adaptive multi-paddock grazing is emulating the way bison moved across the Great Plains. They get together, they eat about half the forage, stomp the rest down to protect the soil, although the bison probably didn't know that, but maybe they did. And then they move on, and then the land rests for most of the time. So the adaptive farmer's doing that type of grazing on this side of the fence. The conventional farmer is just letting their animals roam large areas for a long period of time and eating the grass down to where it looks pretty if you want to park, but it's not real pretty if you want nature to be thriving. And so we studied the soil carbon, nitrogen, water infiltration, the nutrient density of the forage, birds, bugs, microbes, greenhouse gas cycling, animal well-being, and farmer well-being. Yeah.
That was a really good explanation. Before we roll the clip, anything else you want folks to know?
Sure. So the first clip is in Woodville, Mississippi. The gentleman on the right is Cooper Hurst. He's the adaptive farmer. He and his wife Katie have been doing this for about a decade and a half. The gentleman on the left is Wallace Ferguson. He's a conventional farmer with his parents, and they're 5th or 6th generation on that land. And they're neighbors. Like the only thing separating their property is some trees. And so Wallace in this clip is learning that Cooper doesn't put synthetic fertilizer down on his property, and Wallace is having a hard time understanding that.
What does that make you think? Like what he's saying right there, that's not the way you work.
No. But I understand. But the thing is, I'm just saying, that grass is going to grow when you put fertilizer on it. Without putting fertilizer on it, you think, I'm wasting my time even planting it. But
everything you're struggling with, we've been there. So you can't feel or say anything that we haven't said.
Yeah.
We've been there.
It's just hard to think of how you could do this without putting it on. I'm being honest.
Yeah,
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
You know my dad. Yeah. He's as good as gold. And you telling him you don't have to spend him, he loves that. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Dad would eat it up. He loves the land, he loves the farm, he loves his cattle.
But if you're not spending money wastefully.
And that's where we are. We are not into wasting money.
All right.
Woo!
Can I say a little bit of something?
Of course.
So the research where all these scientists, I was helping organize it and help fundraise for it. It's about a $10 million project. But also, the documentary itself is part of the science. So it's not like we were documenting scientists. We were documenting ourselves doing the work with the farmers. We were with them for years. So I just wanted to add that in.
That's such a revolution. I know this isn't on our prepared remarks when we had our prep call, but that's such a revolutionary way of filmmaking and documentary filmmaking in particular. It's very different than going in and doing what normal documentarians do. It's learning as you go and just helping the scientists figure it out, helping the farmers and ranchers figure it out. It's very cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was intense. We went through 5 editors. It was hard work. We shot a lot of footage, and I didn't know what I was filming. I thought I was going to make a bunch of short films, and what we've made is a 4-part docuseries. It's called Roots So Deep, You Can See the Devil Down There. Wallace's dad came up with that title. I was just, there's the title. He just said that just one day. And so meeting these farmers has just been a joy.
Yeah.
Right? And the scientists as well. Like, so we made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of, I'm busy at Christmas time, wishing everyone happy holidays.
I'm wondering if you can share with the audience some of the, I think that's me, some of the practices that Cooper is using on his land.
Yeah, well, it's regenerative, it's adaptive. And so what he's doing is he's making sure his animals are moving to fresh food as often as possible,
Yep.
sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And everyone who doesn't do this thinks it's more work, but they're spending all their time planting seed, fertilizing, growing hay, baling hay, spreading hay.
Yeah.
Cooper's not doing any of that.
Yeah.
And so Cooper's seeing his animals every day. And the animals, when he comes, they know there's good food. He opens up the gate. They just go right on through.
Right.
And the last animals are the ones who need some attention. So his medical costs have gone way down.
Yeah.
Because he's not just giving them all something because they think they might have something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm wondering if you can talk about, you use the term adaptive. What would Cooper be adapting to sort of like on a weekly, monthly basis?
Rainfall. The productivity of that particular piece of ground at that particular piece of time. And so when we were doing the research, we had to find farms that were doing grazing, where the adaptive farmer was doing it this newer way, even though it's based on very old nature techniques.
Sure.
The conventional farmer doing it the way that most everyone's doing it in their county. Mm-hmm. And we just got lucky because of all the conventional farmers but one's all right, but really good farmers. So it wasn't like we cherry-picked the worst conventional and compared them to the best adaptive.
Right.
So Cooper was unhappy because we had to match soil types.
Uh-huh.
We had to say the same soil type is here as is over on the other side of the fence. So where we landed on Cooper's farm was his most unproductive spot.
Yeah.
He was really bummed out. But that was the randomness of our work.
Sure.
So he's adapting to how much rain's happening and what are animals eating, what time of year it is, what's growing. This is a little side note, but I met a dairy farmer in Wisconsin who made cheese every season. Same field, same cows, and it tasted so different by what was growing, how it was growing, what the nutrient density was, what was in that plant at that time.
Yeah.
All those things he's adapting to. And so nothing's prescriptive. Each paddock is not the same size every year. Each paddock, he's not even in the same spot every year.
Yeah.
If he starts getting prescriptive, then it's going to start dying.
Yeah. I wonder from your perspective, why it's so. Okay, let me kind of step back. A lot of farmers that I know, and for good reason, are risk adverse.
Yep.
They have had to be, because of if it fails, it fails, and that's your home, that's your tractor, that's a lot of things for your
everything.
family. Yeah, and so I kind of get why Wallace is like, I don't want to stop using fertilizers. That's what I know. That's what I want to do. But I'm wondering, like, seeing what Cooper is able to do, what eventually will happen.
Yeah. I'm not going to give away the whole film because it's going to be available May 28th on our website.
I tried, everyone.
Rootsodeep.org. But Wallace was very curious about what Cooper was doing, but he was too polite to ask. These two guys have known each other for 25 years.
Yeah.
That scene you just saw is the first time they've ever talked about grazing. And they're friends.
It's kind
That
of
was
sweet.
just something they did not talk about. And what it was, everyone has an opinion about that Wallace thinks Cooper's crazy, Cooper thinks Wallace should know. It's politeness. It really is politeness. Wallace doesn't want to get in Cooper's business, and Cooper does not want to tell Wallace what to do.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to be that guy. He's not that guy, but he knows it would be better for Wallace. He knows that.
Yeah.
And so the politeness wall, we plowed through as the film part of this, because I just say, hey, guys, I'm interviewing each of you. You've never talked to each other about this. It was blowing my mind. Do you mind if we do a scene with you guys just talking?
Right.
3 hours, sun sets, we're pushing our grain on our film. I do want to post that whole conversation at some point.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fascinating.
That would be great.
And they were both into it,
Sure.
but they
sure.
needed some help.
Yeah. Sometimes you need an outsider to come in and ask
but
questions.
Wallace sees what's going on. He's impressed. He just,
Sure.
it's a lot to change.
Right. It's a lot to change, and it's a lot for not just your own mindset, but your family's mindset.
Yeah, but I will say that with what I've learned on this farm, on these farms and the farms I've been on, yes, risk is scary, but it's riskier not to change.
Sure.
With what's happening with climate change right now. So if you're a risk averse, guess what? You got to change, because that's the least risky thing to do.
Right now. Yeah, that's where we are.
Yep.
I want to turn to the clip 2 about what we're seeing with quail populations.
Yeah, so we knew we were going to study birds as an indicator species for wildlife health. What we didn't know was how important the bob white quail specifically was going to be. And so you're going to get to meet Mike McGraw, our bird guy, and you'll see Cooper and Wallace again here. So that's this one.
Yes, Bob White. Bob White.
If they say their name, Bob White? Just delightful to hear that sound in the landscape. From the 90s to 2014, the Bob White averaged approximately 5% decrease in overall population. So there's been over 85% population decrease up to 2014.
I do know this, Peter. When I was younger, they had quail everywhere. They're not there anymore.
So have you heard Bob White's while we've been here?
Yeah, I have. That when we got, right before we came on the porch, I heard that. And I kind of thought somebody was messing with me. You start hearing things. But I have had one or two 10 years ago.
This year, we're hearing quail from daylight to dark, from front to back, and everywhere in between. It really makes you think. It makes you think.
Woo. So, Peter, it makes you think. Why fewer quail on conventional grassland?
Because it looks like a golf course, and the quail need forage to protect their babies when they're nesting.
Yeah, it's very simple.
So what we found is the conventional farmers who hay later are actually providing habitat for the quail during the breeding season. So we had a conventional farm in Tennessee who had a really good bird count because they were haying later.
Got it.
And so that's like just a tiny change, right? But it has a huge impact.
And why are quail so important as like this environmental indicator?
Well, the quail themselves were more culturally important. Birds themselves are the wildlife indicator. So if birds are breeding on your land and not extirpating, I learned that word. It's the actual families are dying off and not breeding anymore. So they're not extinct, but they're done on that piece of land.
Yeah.
And so birds can land anywhere they want. And I think this goes right into the next clip if we can go there.
Yeah, of course.
So guys, this is the one where you just sort of just bring it up and not play, because I have some graphics. Okay, so this is the overall graphics for our study for the grassland birds. Can everybody see those numbers? And so of the 10 farms, the 5 farm pairs, counting 4 times a year, 2 years in a row. So a significant method. So now if you just play for a second, we'll get to the next slide, and if you pause for me, please. This will be Kentucky. So this is what happened in the Kentucky pair. And now, if you hit play, we won't have to do this again, fellas. You'll hear more about this. Thank you.
So it just tells the story of a functional system and one that's broken, essentially.
That's sad. That's really sad.
What makes it sad?
Well, because, I mean, they don't have any place to live over there. They need a place to live. Where are they? They should be there. That's horrible. That is. It's terrible.
What do y'all think about the science that we've shared with you today? What thoughts are you having about what you've been presented?
It's showing things that I've been doing wrong for a long time. And I said, well, I've been making a mistake all these years,
It's not about mistakes. It's just about, hey, this might work better. That's all it is.
What we're supposed to do now. How do we get the carbon back? How do we do this?
So we're designing a T-shirt with print. That's Wallace's dad and mom. a T-shirt of Prentice saying, "How do we get the carbon back?" It's actually, I've got it in my email probably tomorrow. I'll be seeing that.
I love that. I love that. This has nothing to do with the clip, but because you've been doing this kind of work for so long, building these relationships with farmers and with other scientists, this is not easy. And to get people to be very frank and say, listen, I've been doing it wrong, I think is extraordinary. That takes some, like what you'd say in Spanish, confianza. That takes that kind of...
What's the word?
Confianza, you know?
Is that like confidence?
Yeah, like
Okay.
a confidence, trust. It's a trust in somebody.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to build when there's the urgency of these issues, right?
Well, it's easier than not having success in the project. So for me, it's I respect everybody I meet, and when you are respected, you feel better, right? So it starts right there. I learned to listen. I was not born a good listener. I got taught the hard way by my first boss. He's like, Peter, you're a very bad listener. And I'm like, all right. But I learned.
Yeah.
And listening gives us so much, because then we can find where we're in agreement, even though we don't know we are in agreement. So it's not like I have to change anyone's mind.
Yeah.
I just have to find out where we're already agreeing and then build from there. But if I'm talking all the time, like I used to do, I will miss that.
Sure.
And so it's time, spending time. The work started in 2018. It was 3 years later when we started giving them data. They started realizing we were there for them. Like, this project was not for a company, it wasn't for an idea or a paper. Some of my scientists still think it's not for a paper, but we'll get them, And it was about how do we make farmers live a better life because they're feeding us. Right? And one of the things I learned is a lot of farmers have their off-farm job to have health insurance.
Right.
So why can't we give farmers health insurance through the food bill? Right? Small thing.
Love it. I love it. All right, next clip. So I went back. We gave all the farmers all the data. You just met the Kentucky family. You met the Woodville family. And I went back and I said, well, here, we'll just show you. 6 months later, what's going on in their minds?
What data affected you more than any other data that got you thinking, or?
Hearing that the land is unhealthy because we have not got the species of birds that should be here. That broke my heart. So I want it to be healthy, you know. That's our job, is to take care of it.
So, that's Marie Levask in Kentucky, my home state. She cares for people. She's a psychiatrist at the state facility for the folks who are really hurting.
Wow.
And she's always bringing in kids to take care of them in her life. And she's a tremendous human being.
So empathetic. Like, you can just feel her love.
Yeah. And that was 6 months later. It did not leave her thinking.
Yeah.
So what that showed us was birds are an amazing lever for change. I had no idea, right? We kind of thought water would be an amazing lever.
Right.
And the water data that we got is pretty substantial. The infiltration rate's so much better just across the fence, just because people are doing grazing differently. It's a fascinating yet simple thing.
Yeah.
But the birds,
You have more of this clip, right?
I have one more clip, and this is just sort of what happened was when we met all the conventional farmers, Marie asked the question, what are you going to do with the data? And I said, it's yours. And she said, well, what if it shows we can do something better? Mm-hmm. And that was great news to me, because I'm like, oh, wow, this person's open, right?
Yeah.
I said, well, then we will teach you if you want. We've got an amazing team, and we have an amazing person on our team, Alan Williams. And so we asked all the conventional farmers after we gave them the data, came back in the spring, we gave them data in the fall, would you like to meet Alan Williams? And so Wallace was one of the ones who said, you bet. And so this is after a morning with Alan, 2 hours with Alan.
Well, Miss, I appreciate it. I'm going to be honest, I'm very glad Peter told me you will come. And just what you told me this morning is a lot of information, but it was good, detailed information that never had ever been explained to me before.
Right.
It's kind of making a lot more sense to me now. When I met Peter, and they'd never you never really pushed me on anything. I think that might have helped. You know, if you said, hey, this is the way to do it, and I'm hard-headed on certain things. I am, and that's, I guess, normal, but.
Hey, Wallace?
Yes, sir.
What I've been thinking as I've been watching, it feels risky for anyone to change the way they're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm thinking now is the real risk is not changing. Would you agree or disagree?
I'd say yes, it'd be risky not to change it. You're not gonna make money doing it the way I've been doing it. And I've got proof across the fence. If I can get it to growing grass like my neighbor here, Cooper's got, it'd make me very happy. We'll see. I just know Cooper had quail over there, it made me mad. It was good to see it. It's good to hear it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yes, sir.
So,
What's so important to me about this and the work that you do and the conversations you and I have had over the years, that villainizing farmers has never been the answer here, right? But we still do that, like regular folks, not you, not me, but there's still this villainization of like, you're doing the wrong thing, you're destroying the planet, you're, making quail go away, you're making deforestation happen all over the world. It's really important for films like this to tell that different story. Yeah. But that just doesn't, you didn't wake up, in your academic career and be like, these are the stories I'm telling.
I don't have an academic career. I was brought to ASU because I made films.
But
so
it
sort of happened. I've got my name on some papers now, so it's kind of cool. And I do teach students who are now graduating and going out in the world and all that stuff. But being told you're an idiot is a really great way to stop a conversation.
Yeah.
I've never felt real good after someone said that to me. Now, I'm not saying they haven't said that to me, but I didn't feel too good after they said that to me. And here's another thing. So this is talking about grazing. And there's a lot of folks who think that cattle are the eco-villains that are ruining the planet. Yeah. Now, industrial cattle production with the CAFOs and the corn growing and the soy, that's some dangerous stuff. And the data is not helping the planet. But there's a nuance here. Nature has a way of doing stuff, and these farmers are just going back to nature because they couldn't afford not to. The pioneers, they were broke. And they're like, how do I grow food without spending all this money on fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and medicine, right?
Yeah.
So they came back this way, and it's better on every metric you can think of. But the plant-based world is getting a pass right now if you think the plant-based food system isn't doing serious damage to this planet. It's true. It's true. And you can talk to a lot of insects, a lot of pollinators, a lot of little mammals that are cute when you look at them, who are dead every day from the plant-based systems. So it's not about not killing. It's about how do we get all of this back to shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wendell Berry has a great quote that I can't remember verbatim, but I'll bastardize it for y'all. When we took row crop production and livestock production and separated them, we took an elegant solution and made two huge problems.
Yeah, real big ones.
Right?
Real big ones, yeah. In the few minutes we have left, I want to talk about two things. Policies to support the ranchers, farmers who want to make this change. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
I think we need big foundations to put a pile of money, impact investment, and help the ranchers, a ranch transition finance. If you want to, let's say there's a farmer who doesn't even have livestock on their land. They're going to have a perimeter fence. They're going to have to put some piping in.
Yep.
And they're going to have to buy animals. Let's say you have a farmer who wants to do this, but needs a different breed of animal to do grass finishing.
Yeah.
That's some money. But the farmers who focus on soil health, from all the work I've done and all the conversations I've had, they pay that money back quickly.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about carbon in the soil, getting it out of the atmosphere, getting it working in the soil, the same thing with the money. Right? So I think that's a really key piece.
Yeah.
And then education, just knowledge sharing, right?
Yeah.
Letting farmers, Wallace didn't know his soil was 115 degrees with no cover on it, and it was 75 degrees where there was grass.
Yeah.
He did not know that until that morning.
Right.
No one told him.
It's amazing,
right?
yeah.
And so now, Wallace's friends need to know this, right? So we make a film, we send it out. You all talk about it, I hope. And we get the films out, but then we have Alan Williams and his gang and all the great teachers right behind,
right,
saying, "You want to learn this? We got you."
Right.
And we make it really easy, really warm. Community building. community building.
It is. It's
And then we
great.
keep doing the science because we have to get measurement and verification cheaper. We have to know how to measure this stuff so that we can have a carbon market that's not shenanigans.
I love
And then
it.
we got to keep telling these stories.
I love it. And I feel like the new sort of film documentary era that we're in about food and agriculture is all about that community building, and it's incredible. In the final seconds, what's next for Roots So Deep?
Oh, it's going to be live. We've been on the road for a year. We call it our hometown road show. Barns and churches and all sorts of places. And it's going to be live on our website, rootssodeep.org, on May 28th, so anyone can watch it. $20, 4 episodes, no waiting. I hope no waiting with the IT stuff, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And then I'm going to the UK. We're going to make it available end of June there. It's going to be a
Nice.
groundswell. Then we're going down to South Africa, where my wife's from. We're going to make it available down there. And then just keep going on the road with this stuff, and then fund the thing I just described.
Sure.
Education, ranch transition finance, science, measurement, storytelling.
Love
Like,
it.
that's the
Yay,
game.
Peter Byck. Woo! Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. Incredible work. I really, truly love this man. He's doing awesome storytelling. Thank you all. Thank you, Peter. In this next session, we're now going to explore how we can help eaters milk. I can't talk. I'm gonna start right over. I'm gonna act like it didn't happen.